Hey everybody, it's Pastor Vern for November 20th. It's a Friday, the end of the week, work week for many of us, um, some of us. We've been talking a little bit about the things of Jesus's time. We're going to continue on that. We're going to look at a little bit at the weather now. I guess that's something we don't think about. There is a lot of weather phenomenons that are related in the Bible. A lot of it has to do with extraordinary things that God whipped up in order to make a point one way or another. But it's like every place we have weather, and sometimes there's extremes. And then sometimes there's the normality of how the weather patterns normally go. And so we're going to look at that just a little bit today, just to get an idea of what you might face in any year as you lived in the area where Jesus would have done his teaching and his ministry. First, we talk about snow. Snow was relatively rare in that climate. There was a few mentions that maybe not in the Bible, but in historical record of the day of Jerusalem receiving a small amount of snow in extreme circumstances. But snow was mostly relegated to the high mountains. We've seen that if you've been out to the Rockies, if you've been to some of those kind of locations. You can see that they have the snow-capped mountains where there's snow a good share of the year, and some all year round because of the elevation. It doesn't get quite warm enough to completely melt away, and so snow took out some special meanings. We've had it referenced in the scriptures a few places, and it came into a reference of purity. White as snow. Some of them common phrases in the Bible. The other thing we're going to talk about a little bit today is rain. We talked about that a little bit because of the way it covers the roofs. Were used to fill the cisterns. Israel was not quite as dry as Egypt was, where they learned a lot about coping with dry weather as when they were in captivity. But it was pretty unevenly distributed. They had the rainy season and the dry season. The dry season, they would see virtually no rain from May to mid-October. It was very rare that it would rain during that time. And the So the importance of rain, especially in what they called the early rains, or the early rains and the latter rains, were the spring and fall rains in which the cisterns would get filled. And so that was an important aspect of how they were able to survive in a country where water was scarce. Extended droughts, where we see that in the scriptures a lot. The threat to the crops and life in general. We see a lot of pagan rituals from that time period that we hear about, that they'd want to try to get rain. But the Israelis, Israelites, they didn't participate in that because they believed that God would take care of them. So that's kind of your basics of snow, rain, hailstorms were infrequent, but they did happen. Maybe more in Egypt for some reason, maybe because it was so dry, and when the weather changes had to be dramatic in order to get rain, moisture. Uh, Then we see that hail is also used in several of the visions in Revelation, and it is considered something very destructive and evil. And of course, we know that being in farming communities, what kind of devastation hail can do to our crops. But also, we see times when hail was used to help or to hinder certain groups of people, especially armies. God would send hail to distract and or punish people, according to the scriptures. All right. Well, you guys have a good weekend. Take good care of yourselves. Watch out for others, and the best you can, and be safe. We'll talk to you later.